Hippocampus is part of the brain that is extremely important to many of our cognitive functions. This particular part of the brain is also enriched with gamma frequency waves that are hypothesized to bring in a lot of information from our sensory signals, which then contributes to a lot of our cognitive processes. In this study, these researchers used machine learning techniques to see how these different gamma waves frequency go about during these different phases, and also what do these phases have to do with learning as well as behavior within the subjects. The machine learning techniques that these scientists use in order to decode the EEG data, aka the brainwaves data, showed that there are differences not only pertaining to the frequency of gamma waves, but also which layer of the hippocampus these gamma waves were emanating from, depending on the behavior as well as the learning of the subjects. Also, the diversity of gamma waves frequencies were really pertinent to these studies. In the past, we used to just average let's say gamma waves or beta waves frequencies. But as we also talked yesterday, sometimes these domains are very large. And this study, very interestingly, was able to show that we can no longer just average brainwaves frequencies, but we need to be more sensitive about exactly which frequencies there are, because sometimes even the lower frequencies of even the same gamma waves frequencies appear to carry different types of information, whereas the noisy one. So what they're trying to say here is that instead of just averaging all the frequencies and just say this is what is emanating or exhibiting in terms of frequencies, but we also need to be more sensitive about which exact frequency from which layer of hippocampus is being decoded or combined or connected with which behavior of the subject. In other words, what the scientists are trying to say is that the hippocampal gamma activity can no longer just be averaged. It needs to take into account, for example, which phase of the learning it is happening, exactly which frequency it is happening within, but also exactly which anatomical level, anatomical layer of hippocampus it is that these neurons are being activated and are being fired. For example, different gamma waves frequencies timed at different phases from different layers, anatomical layers of hippocampus, brought forth specific distinct information. In this case, let's say slow gamma that they're defining 30 to 80 hertz predominated, for example, within the specific layer when a specific behavior and or learning was happening, or a medium gamma waves, in this case, they are defining it as 60 to 120 hertz, predominated other areas or other anatomical areas that they were investigating. It appears that they're claiming that the diversity of gamma frequencies, which could really range from low gamma to very high gamma, is no longer a valid point of discussion where we just say this layer exhibited gamma waves, because these different frequencies within the gamma range appear to be correlated with distinct behavior that has to do with whether they are weak frequencies, whereas they are strong frequencies. They're no longer, in other words, just a noise that we've been thinking so far, or at least the neuroscience community has been thinking so far. The very important point here is that when we shift our perception, going from not seeing the whole frequency as just a noise, but looking at distinct frequencies within that range of, let's say in this case, gamma waves, and we connect that with behavior, exactly which layer the hippocampus they come from, which phase it is, at what time that is happening. That gives us a more holistic view as to what could potentially these wave frequency mean. And that is when we can start decoding behavior based on just EEG data, because we are looking at it more specifically. We are looking at it more purposefully, and also thinking about how it could potentially mean a distinct type of information as opposed to just averaging everything together. It also appeared based on this study that the firing of the neurons appeared to really coordinate together and synchronize with each other, such that they would increase or decrease the gamma waves frequencies depending on the behavior, depending on the task that was at hand, and depending on learning. As the subjects learned more and more about the task, these neurons miraculously synchronize with each other, and together did the action potential of firing and not firing, of course, to give birth to these different distinct gamma waves frequencies that then in turn had the role and responsibility to bring in information and help the subject also keep learning the task. So it all boils down to a miraculous collaboration and coordination between the physical and the non-physical brain to put this all forth together. One of the reasons that these type of studies make me personally extremely exciting is the fact that up until now, at least for the past 100 years, we've been really forcing ourselves to just bucketize these different frequencies in terms of, let's say, alpha, gamma, beta, etc. But more and more research, especially now that we have AI and machine learning at our hands, that it shows that the way in which we've been categorizing and we've been taught to categorize frequencies is somehow becoming obsolete, because there are a lot of different frequencies that are put together in, let's say, one bucket, in this case, let's say gamma waves. But there are many different frequencies that we are disregarding just because we're putting everything, let's say, in just one bucket of gamma. But it starts from 30 hertz and it goes all the way, depending on who it is, whether it's an animal or a human. But the beauty of this type of study, again, what makes me exciting is that we are now waking up to the fact that maybe, just maybe, different frequencies do have different meanings, and that is how the brain communicates, not only just through gamma, but it's maybe a very little portion of the gamma that is a very, very distinct type of frequency, let's say 42 hertz or 35 hertz or whatever the case may be. And that is why this is extremely exciting.